host, Ben Mendez, joined by my co-host, Mr. Javier Perez and Ilsa Garcia.
The beautiful young Miss Ilsa Garcia.
Well, thank you, Javier.
It's so great to have Ilsa here.
Not the Tejano artist, Elsa Garcia.
Ilsa Garcia.
Isa.
Very talented young lady.
We also have a very talented guest, Mr. Anthony Freddy. He's a political consultant joining us. And we have, and I don't even have my microphone on.
Live TV.
It's live TV, and I forgot to put my mic on. Let me start all over again. My name is Ben Mendez. I'm your host, joined by my co-host, Mr. Javier Perez and Ilsa Garcia.
Do I need to repeat about Ilsa being?
You need to repeat
the young, beautiful.
that she's not the Tejano artist. That's
not
correct.
the Tejano artist.
And we have Mr. Anthony Freddy also joining us. He's our political consultant. We're going to talk a little politics today. I will tell you, there's a lot going on in the presidential race. As you know, Mr. Jeb Bush has resigned, if you will, dropped out of his political.
How the climate change is quick.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, that favors Senator Rubio. And for the longest time, we've been talking about Senator Rubio being the candidate to beat. Trump's going to have his hands full with Senator Rubio. I can tell you that right now. I know Trump is ahead in the polls.
Don't count out Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz is he's scratching that itch for a lot of these people.
The word is that Ted should have Texas.
Well, even if he does have Texas, you still got Florida, you still got California, and you got New York.
Ohio, New York, yeah.
Those are the big states. And I can tell you, Trump and Cruz will probably not win New York because of all the negativity.
They won't win California.
I would say that Rubio would win California and Florida. And maybe Cruz would win Texas. So where does that leave Trump? Right? So Trump is going to have his hands full when you start counting all the votes at the end of the day. And as you know, we need 270 electoral votes
270
to win presidency. It's going to be tough. And I'd like to see, if nothing else, I'd like to see a Latino as the vice president candidate. Because we know that Hillary Clinton is going to have a vice president candidate on the Democratic side if she is the nominee, and that'll be Mr. Julian Castro. In addition to that, there's rumblings out there that even the Independent Party was looking at a Hispanic as the VP.
That's right.
So you might have 3 Hispanic VPs running in this race.
Well, I think that will increase the odds of opportunity for them to do that. I mean, it just makes good sense that with the climate that we're in today, that a Hispanic vice president would definitely almost assure you the opportunity to go forward.
And once you have one in one party, Anthony, you probably have to have one in
You're going to have
the
to
next
have
one.
in the other party. I mean,
And
I think that's the way the climate is going to lead you.
Yeah.
It's going to push that way.
You know what? And probably what it doesn't really amaze me, but it's a great thing to see. Is not only are they going to be Hispanic, but they're going to be qualified Hispanic candidates. Any of these his Latino candidates could have, or for too long probably will be president one day. And I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. And
well, I mean, we look at the last 8 years. We are all in a new age in terms of what's happening in this country. We see a lot of things that you wouldn't have thought that it would have come forward.
Perfect example, President Obama became the president.
Perfect example.
Just the other day, I saw a little recording. They had a 106-year-old lady. She was an African-American woman. Did you see this?
That's beautiful.
And talking about she would have never dreamed that there was going to be a black president. And here she was dancing with Miss Obama and President Obama.
She had more fire than all of us put together at 106.
And she was dancing away with her cane at the White House. And let me tell you, it was good to see that. I got a big kick out of it. I don't know about yourself.
I tell you, I got a huge kick out of it because the fact that she brought so much energy into it, and she literally just turned basically to the camera and said that I never would have thought that I would live to see the day that we have a black president.
Or that I would be in the White House.
Or that I would be in the White House. In fact, her family and constituents or friends, neighbors actually lobbied for her for the last 2 years to be able to get to the White House
that's
to
amazing.
meet the president.
I think, Ben, have you been to the White House before we went in October?
I've been there 3 times.
Well, this was my first time. And and the thing I told Ben, I said, Ben, it doesn't feel like this is going to be the first time. I mean, it's going to be the only time we're going to be here. I think we're going to be here again.
Once the door of opportunity opens, fortunately, it has opened up for everyone. That's what's so good about this opportunity with having a president like President Obama. The opportunity is there now for everyone. We're talking about the African American, you're talking about the Hispanics, and you're also talking about the possibility of a female president. That's America.
You know, it's great that we actually have right here, while we're still alive, the possibility of a Latino being president of the United States.
But you know, Ben, that's why it's so important that we continue to push forward and educate the young so that they can begin to not wait later to be active, but be active now today. Because, you know, the Black and Brown Coalition, that's a coalition that has been growing, and actually we've been working with that for a very long term, trying to get that component to move forward. And it's actually moving forward now. We can actually see that there are partnerships.
I would agree with that. If you look at HISD,
Yes.
HISD is a perfect example. The minorities pretty much have taken over the board. They have 5 votes versus 4.
That's correct.
Right, so the 5 votes are minority, the 4 are Anglo, and so they have actually taken over the reign. Just last week, we had an African American appointed as the interim superintendent, and who knows what's going to happen next couple of weeks, because they're talking about having a selection committee,
That's correct.
going out there and finding out who would be the next interim, or actually the next superintendent of HISD.
And there's some lobbying going on already for some individuals.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's going to happen, and I think that's a good thing, because the more we can work in together, I think the better our communities can get as a team.
And by the way, we have someone behind the camera that's brand new today.
Oh, we do. Ricardo.
Ricardo's in the house. He's behind our cameras here. First timer doing this, so appreciate his support. As you know, this is a non-profit. Nobody gets paid to do what we do here. We're here to share about what's going on in the community, whether it be Hispanic, African American, Anglo, doesn't matter. But if it affects the Hispanic community, we want you here on this show. And you have an opportunity to be here by contacting us on Facebook.
Absolutely, and you know, it's great to have Ilsa here and her give us that female view, and she is the spokesman for NHPO, correct?
That is
So
correct.
so that's great. It's great to have
That's
her here.
good.
And she's a graduate, of course, graduate of the NHPO Leadership Institute. Her and Ricardo, you know, it's great having them here, and thank you for coming. I hope it's not, and believe me, we want that female perspective.
Well, what Javi doesn't know is that you're going to replace Javier. You're in training mode.
That seems to be real popular with females. They all want to replace me, you know. It must be.
It's the energy.
It must be my feminine
it's
side.
the newfound energy that they're bringing, Javier. The
Even
newfound
Ricardo laughed about that one. So Javier's getting replaced.
You know, Ben, I had the privilege to be asked, I think last month, to serve on the advisory committee for the HISD Hippie
Okay.
program, and I found that was a very unique program. Although I wasn't aware of it until the actual invitation, and I know that it's been around for almost 30 years now, 25 plus years.
I don't even know what it stands for.
It's a home education parent program, to where you take mothers and their kids, or mothers and fathers, and you actually have either a retired educator or a parent who's been taught by HISD's committee of the Hippie to teach them how to assist their child with their homework. And then some of those parents actually become part-time or full-time workers for the program. In fact,
Paid.
they are actually paid.
Okay.
They have a good. They're not to the living wage right now, but they're actually paying $10 an hour, and they're actually or looking for individuals to actually participate in the program. I have a flyer. I've been doing an email blast for them
Great.
to try to recruit both 4 and 5-year-old students and parents who would love to come and actually either volunteer their time or become a paid employee.
So we're not talking about homeschooling by no means. We're talking about regular HISD schools.
Yes.
And they're actually teaching them or tutoring them the classes that are being taught in the school.
They are actually teaching them their classwork that is
Okay.
being taught in school. They go home, they go to the child's home, have instructional time with the parent, and then evaluate that parent in terms of teaching the child.
And Freddie, is it the only requirement that the parent or the person be a graduate or have attended HISD, or do you have to have other requirements for this position?
There are a number of requirements. I don't think that I'm best suited to basically speak in terms of what all the requirements are, but the fact that the opportunity is there for those individuals who are interested. Yes, I think there's a 6-month training program that they go through. And once they go through the program, then they are actually allowed to go out into the communities, to other parents' homes, and teach.
So let's talk a little politics at HISD. As you all know, we just recently elected some of the board members. And so they're on stagnant terms. So staggered terms, they have 4-year terms. So half the board ran just recently, and they are now official board members. 2 years from now, you'll have another half of the board members. What's going to be interesting is the district in the Heights area. That district is predominantly Latino, and it's currently being held by Anna Eastman, who's a former, I think she's a parent, if I'm not mistaken, from that community that ran for office and she won. Okay, so the dynamics are shifting over there. As you know, the Heights and the North Side are a little bit different than what they used to be. But the Hispanic opportunity is that we have a chance to get a Hispanic HISD board member in that seat. And so if that happens, what you'll have is you'll have an evenly split board. And what I mean by that, you'll have 3 Latinos, 3 Anglos,
Wow.
and 3 African Americans.
Perfect board, in my opinion.
Yeah. So it'd be very interesting, the dynamics, if that happens. So let's
Well,
talk.
that'd be interesting to see what would happen. I'd love to. I'd like to be flying the wall in there.
That's a makeup. I mean,
Yeah.
you could see you could be able to see the energy from 3 sides of the room.
Yeah.
And right now, we are currently fighting for a congressional seat that is a Latino district that was created back 1990, if I'm not mistaken.
Around that time, yes.
Through the census, the first Latino seat was created in Congress for the Houston area. And of course, Congressman Gene Green is holding that position now. But I tell you what, that Adrian Garcia is doing a number on Gene Green.
Well, you know, I think, you know, and I think Gene's done a great job for the people in this district. You know, he has a lot of seniority now, but you know, when it's time for him to go, that should be you know, unless more shenanigans happen back like it happened back in 1990, Ben, and you knew that. You've told me that story. I didn't realize all that stuff happened, but there's a reason Gene Green got in there.
Well, I'll tell you what, the numbers look really good for Adrian right now.
They always tell me the voice of the people will speak
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So just to give you little numbers here, as of Sunday, this past Sunday, early vote, we had 70% of the voters in Congressional District 29 were over 65. Isn't that incredible? 70%
It's not surprising.
over 65. Incredible. Okay? That means the older generation is coming out to vote because they want their voice heard in this election.
But that's why we made the statement earlier, is that we have to educate our young, because that voting block has to stay there. You're talking about that older generation, 65 plus. They've been active so long.
Mm-hmm.
We got to pass the torch. We got to make sure that our young, energetic, engaged thinkers are involved.
So this is what that tells me. That tells me that all the races that are going on within the district, because there's many races going on, that they are focusing on the senior citizen centers.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they are pounding, get their vote out from the seniors.
As a political consultant, one of the things that I have actually have a team that focuses on senior citizens.
Sure, mail ballot program.
Get out the vote on the seniors, and that's a program.
Yeah.
I have a client in the 4 Friendswood area, which is comes with Precinct 2 with George Goffney. He's running that race, and the program was initially designed to make sure that we reached out to those seniors, because we understand that's where your early vote and your mail-in ballots are going to come from.
So your peers are voting early.
My peers? Yeah, thank you, Ben. I appreciate that.
But you know,
I still got a few more years before I hit 65.
oh, yeah. Longer. No. But you know what I do notice? Social media is huge for the younger crowd, for the younger generation. Um, Even when they go vote, and if you notice on Facebook, they have the sticker that says "I voted," and they take a picture with it. Everybody wants that sticker. So
That sticker says that voting means to you. It sends a message that says, I care about my community.
true.
And the more we can get push individuals to understand that it's okay to say that I voted, because it makes a difference. It makes a difference every time that you vote, be it local, state, county, or federal. It makes a difference. That's the only way that our communities will be able to come, as we say, pick them up by the bootstraps.
So that leads me to the next number I was going to share with y'all. Of the voters that have voted already, 30% are first-time voters.
Wow,
Awesome.
that's a great number. That's a great
Awesome.
number.
Yeah.
Big number.
You know what? And Anthony, I tell you, it amazes me when I talk to some of these people. They said, my vote doesn't matter. Why should I take the time out and vote? And first of all, you just want to reach over and kind of just grab them by the throat and say, man, come on, man. Look at your kids. If you don't vote for yourself, vote for those kids. I tell them, you know what? I said, there is 500 people in Florida that changed the direction this country was taking. In Florida, these 500 individuals changed the course, got us in, elected President Bush, W, and ultimately got us in a war.
You're not talking about the Chads, are you?
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm talking about. 500 people. 500 people.
And we
changed the
remember that.
course of this country.
Well, Ben, since we're on that topic, let's talk a little bit about the fact that we now have the open seat on the Supreme Court.
That's
Oh,
correct.
yeah.
That's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That is huge when we talk about how actually the politics are going to change even in those dynamics.
Well, I will tell you that President Obama is going to push real hard to get an appointment on the
Yes.
Supreme Court. And whether it happens or not, I don't know. Can I get our producers to do a full shot? There you go. So when we have the president pushing the Senate, because the Senate's going to have to approve the nominee, and they push back and say, no, we're not even going to put it on the agenda.
Sure.
And the president has zero authority, and I do mean zero authority,
Put it on the agenda.
put it on the agenda. It's up to
Zero.
the Senate.
Yeah.
Senate Majority Leader. Okay?
But you know what, Ben? But the American people have shown they want this thing filled.
American people can push it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
yeah, they can push
but
it.
they have to be active. They're going to have to contact each one of their representatives and push it, not only from the local level, but from the federal level.
So my point is that this is a political showdown that has happened 7 years of President Obama's administration. Okay, the Republicans are playing whatever game you want to call it, right? They're playing the little games,
right.
and that's what it is. This is a game because they do not want him to appoint anybody. They
So
want.
is this the showdown?
This is the show. This is gonna be
This
the
is
grand
the
finale.
showdown. This is truly the showdown.
This is the grand
this
finale.
This is where the parties begin to take and jock for position and show who's the strongest.
Sure.
And again, it's the power of the people though that has to push the envelope. If you want that judicial person to be elected, it takes all of us to begin that campaign. Just like we talked about the campaign for the 106-year-old lady. It's going to take a campaign like that now, not waiting until the conversation starts happening. It takes it now to begin to start telephone calls, faxing, emails, campaigns in terms of supporting.
That's absolutely right. So let's talk about the Supreme Court now. They obviously have no term limits. Okay, for those of you that are unaware of this, so
They have it as long as they want it for life.
so once you're appointed, nobody can touch you. It's like kind of having like tenure at the university. You're a professor, right?
Unless
nobody
you
can
ask to
touch you.
retire like Justice Souter did.
Sure.
You know? Yeah.
And so
And that's not a norm.
Yeah. No, it's not.
That's not a norm.
That's not a norm.
But it's evident that he was smart enough to realize that he could no longer have the impact that he needed to have. And that's a good thing, not to wait until you are no longer caught in it in terms of being able to make the right decision.
And Souter was appointed by the first Bush, President Bush, 41, right? Correct.
That's
Is that correct? And he ended up being a lot more moderate than they thought he was going to be. And that's kind of, because a lot of times these Supreme Court appointments, I mean, it's a crapshoot. You don't know where they're going to end up. When they know that they're going to be in there, it's amazing how judicially responsible they become.
Well, the thing about electing anyone is that you elect them based on their past performances or past actions. But however, they wake up tomorrow and they're a different person.
Mm-hmm.
How do you hold them to
Accountable.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. Yes, he may have been a moderate, but he changed over the years, becoming more left or more right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, is that good or bad for the person who placed him?
I was just looking at Javier. Doesn't he look like Rico Suave?
Oh.
Pat, did you dress him up today? Pat,
Wow.
Pat dressed up Javi today. You look like Rico Suave, man. You a Scarface?
Where's your scarf?
Yeah, man, I should have. I forgot that part.
Oh, well. So I brought up the congressional race because I wanted to make a point. Adrian has Gene on the ropes. I can tell you that right now. There is a lot of momentum on Adrian's part. And when we began his race at the very beginning, everybody wrote him up. They're like, oh, Gene's been there 20-something years. There's no way Adrian's going to win. He just lost the mayor's race. Why in the heck is he running for Congress? He doesn't have a shot in the world.
You know what?
But you know what?
What's that? Go
It's
ahead.
changed. It's changed.
You know what, Ben? What I've seen out of Adrian, he's a lot more confident now.
Oh, yeah. He's beating
He's a
up
lot
on
more
Gene.
confident,
That
and
comes
he is
with
going after.
That comes
Green.
with not the fact that you had the experience in terms of holding office. It comes with the experience of having to deal with various different type of candidates, opponents.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that Gene's a different type of opponent. And so therefore he's got to be able to talk to his community, his stakeholders, his constituents, and get them to understand that he is the best person, not based on the fact of what Gene has done, but the history of what he knows he's done, both as city council, both as sheriff, and now as congressperson.
Well, there's two issues that he's really pounding him on. First of all is the fact that we have the second highest cancer rate in the state of Texas right here in our district.
Sure.
And Gene Green has sided with the refinery, the oil and gas companies. Over and over, he has a 100% record leaning towards oil refineries. That's proven. The second thing that is the education of our folks. We have 9% or 8%, I can't remember which one, 8 or 9% of the people that live in this district that are old enough to be educated in college have a degree.
Mm-hmm.
8 or 9%, that's the lowest in the country. In the country, okay? And this is a census done by the Pew. You've heard of the Pew?
Yep.
The Pew Institute.
Yep.
Okay, these are not Adrian Garcia's numbers. So, and of course you have gun control and these other issues that are lingering as also, but I find it very interesting that Gene has no way to defend himself. Absolutely nothing he can say to defend himself.
Well, we have already spoken about your history speaks for yourself. Your past. If the issue at hand today is that, and if you have not done anything to try to rectify it or to rectify it, then you put yourself in the position. It's all about what have you done, not what will you do, especially when you've been a candidate for whatever amount of time that you've been in office. And so I think that's for the voters, whether it's for Adrian's vote or whether it's for Gene's vote. They're going to look at the record. They're going to look at the record in terms of where have you been, and then they're going to make their decision based on what are your 5 points or what are your 3 points? What are you going to do to make sure that my quality of life is a lot better? What are you going to do in terms of my opportunity for economics is better? And the last thing, what are you going to do to make sure that it's safe for me in my communities, as well as being able to go and come freely.
So let's talk about another race. Commissioner.
Exciting commissioner race.
Commissioner Precinct 2, Harris County, by the way. We lost a commissioner, El Franco Lee, passed away about, what, 3 months ago?
About 3 months ago. Very good friend of all of our communities.
That's correct. And he was replaced, supposedly the interim replacement, but you know how that goes, by Commissioner Gene Locke. And so we are going to have a race on our hands in the next couple months. People are going to be lining up to run for that seat. And I'm sure some of your friends are involved in that. Who so far has announced that they're going to run for that seat?
Well, from what I've heard, there's probably about 5 candidates. Okay, I think one of the 2 largest names that I've heard is Senator Ellis, and I believe it was, well, I know a few council members have ran, but I think that conversation with regards to the council members got caught up in the legalities of the new state law regarding when you announce your candidacy, then you immediately resign from your current
For
seat.
city council.
For city council.
That doesn't apply for state
And
reps
for
or
the
senators.
state, but it applies for city council.
So the council members would have to drop their seat to run for that seat, which was not the case before.
With that conversation, there's a person who actually filed in court today on that particular law or that particular policy.
Against or for?
Against. Said that the language that was used to allow term limitations to be extended was falsely, falsely written or falsely presented.
Which was
in terms
part of
language.
what passed on November.
Correct.
Right. So November on the ballot, the voters had an opportunity to go from 2 to 4 year terms for city council. Along with that, they had to resign their seat. Is this correct? They had to resign the seat if they run for another position.
Within the current, yes.
Yes.
Within the current statute.
Yes.
That's correct.
Right. And so now there's a lawsuit saying, you know what? We didn't like that 4-year deal anymore. We want to go back to the 2-year deal, the 2-year term.
Well, I don't think that it's really the question of liking the 4-year term. I think what it is the extended time question of whether or not those council members who were already in their office for their second term, and now you're saying that they get 2 4-year terms. Do that extend them instead of having 6 years now to 8 or maybe 10 years? That's really the question.
Right.
And so I think that's really where the law is being pushed at, or the question of whether or not it was presented to the voters correctly.
And I don't think it was. Because I didn't even know what it meant.
You didn't realize that it was a possibility to extend
10
their
years.
term to 10 years.
Yeah, I did not know. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more politics. We'll see you in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. I'm your host, Ben Mendez, joined by my co-host, Javier Perez and Ilse Garcia. And of course, our good friend here, Anthony Frady, our political consultant. We're talking a little politics today. So let's get back into what we were talking about earlier, which was the commissioner's race. So you said there was possibly 5 people that will run for Commissioner's Court, Precinct 2, and that's going to happen pretty soon.
That's going to happen pretty soon. From my understanding is that, as we already know, the March election, Commissioner Lee's name, it's already there. But coming in to the November election, or that's when you start seeing those potential candidates start throwing their names out and start asking for the chairs, precinct chairs, to begin to start identifying or announcing who they're going to support.
So you said the senator. Who else has announced that said that they would run?
As I said, you have the 3 council members.
Yeah, but who else?
But
Now, when would this election be again, Anthony? This election for
the actual election,
commissioners?
If I'm not mistaken,
17?
will be 17. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
November 17th.
Yeah, because the seat itself does not expire until then.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then they will all begin, once the November election is over with, they will begin to start asking or start positioning themselves to run for that seat.
Now, Anthony, and we were discussing this. So if the council members decide to run for this position, they have to quit their current position as councilman, but resign, right?
That's correct.
And then these seats are vacant for how long? Who replaces them?
That's a different process.
That's a different process.
Yeah.
That's a special election that's going to have to be taken care of by the mayor, the current mayor.
So what will happen is the mayor will set a date. On this day, whatever day he chooses, we're going to have a special election to fill those seats.
And do they have already people in mind that they choose, or anybody can run?
Anybody in that district can run.
It's like the special election, or actually the seat that's available for District 139, state rep. Mayor Turner's seat. He was a state representative.
He
His
became
seat is
mayor.
over. He became
and
mayor.
Now you have a state
now
rep seat.
his seat has to be fulfilled.
Okay.
And so there are candidates out there now that are actually bidding for his seat.
And who's running in that seat?
You have Randy Bates, you have Jarvis Johnson, and you have a young lady by the name of Kimberly Williams.
She ran before.
Kimberly Willis, yes. Okay. And they are all from the Acres Homes area.
So Jarvis has the name ID.
Jarvis has a name ID. Randy is a person who's served on the Lone Star Board and known in the committee. And then Miss Willis is the person who's up and coming, but she's been real active in the community, who has the supporters of a lot of the ministers and some of the community leaders out there.
So you all have a dogfight in your community, big time, with those races. We have a fight here in the congressional district. Let's talk about some other races going on. Precinct 6 constable's race. We have Miss Sylvia Trevino, the wife of Victor Trevino.
Mm-hmm.
And we have, I call him Henry Martinez. I can never pronounce his first name.
Eliodoro.
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 Elio.
I can never pronounce his name. And then we have Mr. Ramirez. E.T. is what they call him. E.T.
And Moses Davila?
On Moses Davila, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's a couple more than there.
That's a heated race.
Yeah.
There's 4 people running for constable. And of course, that's Victor Trevino's old seat, currently held by Henry Martinez. I will tell you that is a dogfight in our community as well. You have some longtime supporters of Victor Trevino that will transfer that support to Sylvia Trevino. And then you have the new guard, so to speak, Henry Martinez, who's been in office for, about a year now?
And he's the current.
He's the current constable. Yeah. And so he inherited a lot of supporters just because he's the current constable, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the community leaders that are taking sides. So it's been very interesting in our community.
Well, I guess for me, it's the conversation of what the community is saying that they need. What is it that the community wants? Because ultimately, that's what that candidate has to do. So, as one of the leaders in the community, I'm sure that there are some mandates, some things that are being said. This is what we would like to see. I know you remember the days of TMO, of where we actually put the candidates on the hot seat, and literally said, "This is the agenda that we're looking for. Are you in support of it?" I think that that's one of the things that we have to go back toward.
You're talking about the church leaders.
Yeah, the church leaders.
But I will tell you, in our community, for whatever reason, the churches do not get involved like the African American churches.
That's true.
You know, we don't have anybody at the Catholic Church at the pew saying, you know what, we need to go vote for such and such candidate.
You can't get on the pew at the Catholic Church.
It just doesn't happen.
No.
It just doesn't happen. Now, you might have these other churches that are non-Catholic. They might allow you to do that.
Well, either the Protestant, even the Protestants, Protestants are now not allowing the candidates to come and actually speak from the pulpit anymore. They can come. They're asking them to actually literally stay the entire service, and then if we call you up, you get your 5 minute.
And I tell you
that may
what,
not happen in most of the churches now.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I went broke just going to the black churches. Let me tell you, man. Let me tell you, man. I got to share these stories.
Now, I
with
know
you.
you're not just saying that only the black churches you
No,
had.
well, let me share.
They're the
You
only
had to
one
pay-
let them in.
You had to pay or shut up. They were the only ones letting me in.
Let me share with you. Yeah, I'm not saying everybody.
I know.
Okay, there were certain preachers. I'm not gonna mention any names that would say, "Come on, give me some, show some love, so I can let you speak at our church." Okay, and believe it or not, it happens. Okay,
Yeah.
show me some love, and you give them whatever it is you give them, and then on top of that, you're in the mass for 2 hours, and they pass the hat around twice.
So you get hit 3 times.
You get hit 3 times.
3 times.
Okay, and you go to 4 or 5 churches.
Corner making it rain.
So Ben, that's why it's important. That's why it's important that we have block captains in the communities, so that those communities control the vote and not the individual churches or others control the vote. Because when you have block captains, you then are able to take and get the vote of that community, because you know those community leaders know that you're going to work for them, because that's who you've had the conversation with. That's who you've actually looked eye to eye and said, "Yes, ma'am," to. So that at the end of the day,
And that's how Daley controlled Chicago for all those years.
am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and that's
Absolutely.
the only way to be able to take and form a true partnership, a true relationship with the community, by block captains.
And those block captains had a lot of power. They could find you a job if you needed a job. I mean, there's not a
It's
lot
a
they
matter
couldn't do.
of a phone call away. They pick up the phone. I mean, in your community, we can call names in each one of our communities that has that kind of power. Everybody doesn't know them. But believe me, they can pick up the phone and says, "Hey, I think I need Javier needs to take and be placed over here. Next week, next month, Javier will be in the right seat."
Rico Suave is in place, huh?
Rico Suave. Now, that doesn't mean that Rico Suave, Javier, is going to get away with just sitting there. He's got some responsibilities now.
That's right.
And with that responsibility, he's going to have to make sure that when the conversation comes up for his community, that he's representing his community.
Yeah, but getting back to the black churches, I was very impressed that the preacher would get up there and say, we need to go out and vote for such and such candidate because they're doing great things in the neighborhood, and we need more of that in the Latino community. That doesn't happen in our community. It's unfortunate that the Hispanic churches do not get involved in politics. It really is. I think we need to get more people involved through the church.
And I understand what you mean by that, but you guys have such a strong reverence for the respect for the church, especially Catholics. I'm Catholic, St. Peter Claver Catholic Church, been there 43 years. We also have a Hispanic Mass. When African Americans leave out of church service and go into the fellowship hall, whereas Hispanics do not, they will take in fellowship outside outside in the foyer or the actual parking lot area with their table and their chairs, and they won't go into the fellowship hall. It's fellowship outside. And that's understandable because we all come from different communities. We all raised different. And so the understanding is that that's the reverence of where you are with regards to politics or not. Politics is not going to go inside the door of a Hispanic church.
You're right, Anthony. And the Catholic Church is so structured. If you go to Mass, everything is timed perfectly to the last minute, because the way that you start, the way that you end, and there's no in-betweens. I mean, they give you maybe 3 minutes for announcements.
That's correct.
But only things to do with the church.
Whereas a Protestant church, it starts at 11. It's not over with till 2. We don't have that in Catholicism.
Right.
It's like you say, it's structured. You're going to get an hour service. If it goes over, the only reason why it's going to go over is simply because there's a catechism, baptism, confirmation.
That's right.
That's the only reason why it's going to go over.
And when it does it, oh Lord, they're gonna have.
Right.
Now we're back. Oh
It
my
is
goodness,
Oh.
we're having a baptism now.
Somebody
Man, leave the clock here. We gotta go.
Somebody else is coming up to speak. No, we can't have that.
But it used to be, I remember my parents, I remember my dad going to vote, and they would have the voting site would be at a church, a Catholic church in our neighborhood. Now it's located at a college, at a community college, but I remember, but it was outside. It was never brought in. I mean, they would just go in to vote in the cafeteria area and leave, but it was never brought during Mass. I mean, I've seen politicians at Mass, but they don't speak.
They don't speak. They recognize them, but they won't let them speak.
Mm-hmm.
I have the opportunity to speak, but it's a neutral level. It's an education opportunity to remember that early voting is going on. Remember today's you have to go vote. Remember that you have a mayor's race, but no selection of a candidate.
Of course.
You know, Anthony, I have a real interesting story, because when I was 18, I ran for precinct judge or for executive committeeman in my area, and I remember at the end of my first so-called campaign, I had a black minister that was very impressed with me, and he said, "You know what?" He goes, "Next time you run," he goes, "you let me know." His name was J.A. Busby. They didn't even park after him after he passed. Busby Park over in the northeast side. And I remember that I ended up, I didn't win the election, but at the end of the election, before they took office, the person that beat me was disqualified because he wasn't living in the area. So, and I don't know if you remember this name, County Commissioner Squatty Lyons.
Yes.
Squatty Lyons.
I'm really too young to know anything about that, but I've heard.
Yeah.
That's before my time.
Yeah, but let me tell you,
Yeah.
Squatty Lyons
Really
ended
before
up
my active time.
wanted to appoint the minister, the black
Sure.
minister, J.A. Busby. He said, no. He said, there's a nice little Mexican boy. That's what he said. That he has a good heart, you know. And I tell you, I
He's
put
the
J.A.
ideal
Busby with Martin Luther King.
Sure,
I mean, the man just looked at you. He just read your heart. So he said, no, that's what we want. And basically on his recommendation, I was appointed. And then it was funny because
you got your start.
Exactly, I got my start, and the commissioner did not even know that I was barely 19 years old.
And here's the thing about it, you got your start based on someone else's word.
Exactly.
Which means that you cared about your community more than you cared about anything. Your community came first when it came to make the decision.
To this day, my community comes first.
When you think about the things that you're going to do, the first thing you think about is whether or not it's going to hurt my community or help my community. Even when you take your vote, that person's word or that person's actions.
See, me and Anthony, we're right here, baby. We're right here.
But that's what the electoral process is about, or should be about.
Yeah.
It's not about grandstanding.
Exactly. Absolutely.
It's not
right.
about how am I going to fatten my pockets.
It's not about I and me. It's about we and us.
It's about we and us. Because what affects you, it affects you. And it affects all of us. When we start making those backdoor meetings or backdoor decisions.
That's right.
At the end of the day, our communities wind up being in need.
That's right.
That's true. So we have about a few more minutes. I want to make sure that we cover Judge Richard Vada's race. Judge Richard Vada is running for, is it a judgeship? What is it called? It's a
Justice Peace.
Justice of the Peace. There you go. Justice of the Peace, and he does have one opponent, Miss Vasquez, I believe is her name. So Judge Vada's been there 20-something years at least.
20 plus, yeah.
Yeah, at least. So he actually has an opponent that's making waves. So it's kind of interesting to see what's going on behind the scenes. So you have all these races going on: the constable, the justice of the peace, and of course the Congress. And is there any other races? Oh, state rep,
Yeah.
Bernie Aldape,
Bernie
running
Aldape,
against
yeah.
Mary Ann Perez, and there's a couple other folks that have been in the race. So there's a lot going on, a lot of movement. It's going to be very interesting. Bernie Aldape's that precinct, that district that he's running for is actually held by a Republican, Latino, the only Republican state rep, Latino here in Houston. And so
That Republican beat Mary Ann Pettis.
and the Republican beat Mary Ann
Who was
Perez,
an
who was a
incumbent at the
Democrat,
time.
who was the incumbent. That's correct. So now they're trying to take back that seat to make it a Democratic seat. I was just talking to Bernie earlier today, and he was telling me that they have one of the lowest turnouts in the county. Pasadena, by the way,
Yes.
lowest turnouts. And I thought for sure Pasadena, you would think Trump. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I don't know about
7,000
you.
votes.
Trump, right? They're probably voting in the Republican primary.
I don't know if you remember the history of Pasadena.
Tell me the history.
History of Pasadena has always been, I can remember as a child that everyone knew that Pasadena was the home of the grand
KKK, that's right.
KKK.
KKK. And therefore you just didn't. But as I drive through and see Pasadena now, I don't think that it's that way anymore.
What's
To the
50
degree.
You didn't walk down Red Bluff Road.
Right, right.
Yeah.
To the
I
degree.
know where you come from, Anthony.
It has changed, but that doesn't mean that the climate of the individuals who has that mentality is still not there. That's all over our country now. But the thing about it is that Hispanic population has grown greatly in Pasadena. I mean, hugely.
Unfortunately, they don't vote, though.
Right, that's my point. That's what I was getting ready is that it's getting them to understand the importance of voting. Yes, we have our elders voting, but just as well in the Hispanic communities that you guys are having issues with the lack of voting from young persons, we in African Americans have that same issue. I think that we did not or do not pass on the legacy of the importance of voting. And that's why we got to begin to continue the partnership, to continue to bring our youth together, to work together, so that they understand that when we're out there planting that garden or doing that community cleanup, it's a team effort. And when you begin to get that ownership into your spirit, then you begin to want to see change because you see that abandoned building that's sitting over there, all that junk motor vehicle that's sitting in the yard, or the criminal element that happens. One thing about criminal elements is that it doesn't like cleanliness. You remove the blight, you remove the cleanliness element. And we have to do it, as we used to say, one block at a time.
And obviously, every vote counts. I missed the runoff by 20 votes. Tony Diaz missed it by 8 votes.
Yeah.
8 votes.
See, so how many family members is that?
Yeah.
That one or two families.
1 or 2 families, right?
That's it.
That's just how close it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about your aunts and your uncles. Heck, if you could get just those to go out and vote,
Yeah.
he'd have been in the runoff.
Then it's a whole new ball game.
And it's a whole new ball game.
That's right.
It starts over.
That's right.
Once you make it to the runoff, it starts over.
Anything happens.
And now
That's
you
right.
can come with a different strategy, which you didn't know at the beginning. You've learned that get out to
Absolutely.
vote. That get out to vote for those seniors.
But I do like that you said that it's a legacy, that we don't leave that legacy behind.
We got to pass it on.
You know, we
we
leave
gotta
other
pass it
things
on.
behind. Like we learn from our parents, cooking and
right.
recipes, but not the voting.
Not to vote.
You know what, Anthony? And I remember, I think since my 18th birthday, since I was eligible to vote, I think I might have missed one bond election, and I felt terrible
Sure.
that I had missed it.
Sure.
You know, I thought it was the greatest thing as an American to do is to practice my right to vote.
Sure.
He was filming that movie Scarface, so he couldn't make it.
Javier, I'm like you. That's one of the things. Voting for me, it's like going to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't miss church unless I'm out of town. I don't miss voting unless it's just something that just happens.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not ever going to be intentionally that I just don't go and do it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's
I
the
make-
ultimate in civic responsibility.
I make the practice of going to early vote
Yeah.
because those who are active in the community know the importance of early voting because you're going to have some work to do on election day.
We forgot one race. I just thought of it. Ed Gonzalez is running for sheriff.
I think Ed has a good shot.
Well, it's gonna be tough.
It's gonna
be tough.
You know, it's gonna see how that presidential campaign
Yeah.
works out.
I want to see the day when both the African American community and the Hispanic community begin to get their group of individuals together and say, let's choose this person. That's when our power to control our community is going to happen. Instead of allowing candidates to choose to come to us, we should put our money where our mouth is and begin to choose our candidates.
Dr. Larry Payne.
When you start choosing your
Absolutely.
candidates, then you begin to choose the right person to represent you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what has to happen
Yeah.
in both our communities.
Yeah.
No, I
Because
would
then
agree.
you won't get that 8 or 10 people running for the same. Well, they all are good.
Yeah.
They all are good. But the community should be in a position to choose the best candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, we have a few more minutes. I want to encourage you all to go out and vote. Early vote, it started last week, by the way, and it continues until, I believe, Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And so you have a whole 4 more days to go vote early. And then the big election day,
March 1.
Super Tuesday, March 1st, you're going to have the presidential race along those other races as well. And you're going to have a lot of people come out to vote on election day, so you might as well get it out of the way and vote early. There's going to be some long lines. Just to give you heads up, there's been a 100% increase from 2012 in the voter turnout. 100% increase on the Democratic side. 50% increase on the Republican side. Isn't that interesting?
That's interesting. We're doing something right.
Well, whoever's pushing them, whether it be the party or the candidates, the word's getting
I
out.
do have one question. What do you think, and do you think that we're going to be able to see electronic voting?
It should have happened a long time ago. You know, one
Able
thing.
to vote?
Boy, I tell you, that makes me leary. That makes me
Why
a
does it
little
make
leery.
you leery?
I just,
Because of the history of the election process?
it just seemed to me, it's just that it could be twisted easily. And
Mail
that's what I
ballots
don't
is a
want.
perfect example.
Yeah.
Who knows who's voting with those mail ballots? That person might be dead. They're still voting.
Well, you know, we've had that in the past.
Yes, we have.
We've had dead people to vote.
Yeah, most definitely.
We've had dead people to vote.
Yeah.
We've had, but the thing about it was, it wasn't put into the system. It was literally individuals walking up, not one time, but 2 times. They voted today, and then tomorrow he came back and voted with a different name.
Boy, I tell you.
Well, we've run out of time, guys.
Politics.
Electronic
for
voting.
coming on the show.
That's a whole
Thank
nother
you.
show.
That's
Stanley,
a
a whole nother
We'll
show.
be back next week. We're live TV every Monday night, 6 p.m. So join us next week. We'll see you.